This is my 1985 CB450 with a 86 engine, and we're gonna remove the carburetor and clean it. And so here we go. The carburetor is connected to the engine and to the airbox by boots and a couple screws on the boots. One here and one down here, a couple on the other side. So we're gonna take those off. Next step. Okay, we've got the cam cover breather tube that's going to be in our way of working on the carbs. We're going to just remove the clamp on that, get that out of the way, disconnect that. It comes around and connects to the air box right here, and so we're just going to pull that off. Next step. Okay, next we've got a rear engine mount bracket here that's going to be on our way. So there's 3 bolts on it. There's one on either side, so we're going to get that out of our way. Next step. Okay, next we're going to remove the choke cable. There's a screw and a clamp right here that needs to be taken off. So we'll take that out. Don't drop it. Got it? Right there. That frees up the choke cable. Next step. Okay, next you'll push up the throttle lever with your finger, and then you grab the cable with the needle nose pliers, push the barrel through the hole, and it'll pop right out. I only have one hand. You get what I mean. Next step. Okay, next we're going to remove the boots that go from the carburetor to the air box. It's just a lot of moving up and down and pulling, as you see, and eventually they come right out like that. Get that one off, get the one off on the other side. Next step. Okay, next we're going to disconnect the float bowl drain tubes. Just squeeze the clamp and pull down. No problem. That one's obviously got a nice crack in it, so we'll be replacing that. There's one on the other side. Remove that. Next step. Okay, next we're going to just grab the carbs and pull them off the engine boots. Just simply up and down. They pop right off. One on that side, one on that side. And then we're going to take them out on the side that the throttle cables are on, because if we do that, that lets them just kind of hang, and then now it's going to be a lot easier to remove the throttle cables now that it's out. So we'll do that next. Next step. Okay, next, tape off your intake manifolds on your heads, because yeah, I can't imagine any living soul or bug wanting to crawl into that caustic of an environment. But dust isn't very smart. It might find its way in there, so tape them off. Next step. Okay, so I've got my carbs hanging there by the throttle cables and a little blue tape. So don't quote me on this, but I'm looking at the throttle cables. This is the front cable because it installs. You turn it around this way. This is the front. This is the rear. The rear one has an adjustment screw right here. This one does not. So looks to me like it's safe to take this nut off the front one. So we're going to take that off, and then this should just come right up and out just like that. So you can see that, which is going to free up the other one when we and we'll do that in just a sec. Next step. Okay, next we're going to loosen the bottom screw on the rear cable like so. That should pull that up, and then we're going to push this around, and you can see the barrel, it's right there. So I only have one hand. I'm going to set this camera down and get that barrel out by just giving myself some slack on the cable. Next step. So there you have it. No carbs there, carbs there. So they're off, and so now we'll start the disassembly and clean them. Next step. So actually I probably should have done this before I even started. We're going to drain the float bowls on the carbs. There's a drain screw right here on each carburetor. You turn that, well, you turn that and all the gas is going to drain out of the float bowls. I can't do it with one hand, so turn that screw, that'll drain the gas out of the float bowls. Next step. Like so. I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Next step. Okay, first we're going to remove the float bowl. There's 3 screws right there. Take those off. I've already loosened them. And the float bowl cover comes off. Next step. Next we're going to remove the float. Push the little bar out here. Float comes right out, and the needle valve comes right out also. Next step. Next we're going to remove the main jet. That, and the pilot jet is inside here. So loosen that, and that should dump out. There we go. Next step. Okay, now from the top we're going to take off the needle jet cover. I've already loosened these screws. There's 2 of them, one on each side. They were very difficult. I needed to get some penetrating oil to get those off. So we take those out like so. And spring, and there's your needle jet. Next step. So inside the throttle cylinder holding the needle, there's a screw inside there that you take out, and there's a plastic cap that I've already taken out of the top of it. You take that screw out, and then the needle comes right out. I've already loosened the screw. Out comes the needle. Out comes the little screw they call the needle holder. Next step. Next I removed the accelerator pump and the cover that goes right there. These are the parts right here, and just be careful that you don't lose that little grommet or bushing. It's in I don't know if you can see it, but it goes in that little goes right there. And when I took it out, it fell, and it took me like 5 minutes to find it. So just be careful taking that out. Just take the two screws out, and there'll be there's a little rubber diaphragm that just comes right out. Next step. Next is this the pilot screw. And when I backed it out, I just counted the rotations. You don't need a screwdriver. You can just use your hand. It twists right out, and then there's a spring in there, so be careful not to lose that. And you just dump it out, and yeah, there's the spring and a washer, so keep track of those. There's the washer, there's the spring. Next step. Okay, last but not least, the air jet cover. It's a plastic piece on the opposite side of the float bowl. Just remove one screw, take that out, and we'll be ready to dip it. Next step. Okay, so dipping. Here's the carburetor parts cleaner that I'm going to use. And so I'm going to take the carburetor right now. I've already dipped one side. I'm just going to dip this right in there. It comes with a cool little basket for parts, but I'm going to do those later. So I'm going to support this. Actually, it doesn't look like I need to. Actually, it sits in there relatively nicely. It's supported on a screw and some controls here. So says 15 minutes to 30 minutes. I'm going to do an hour. Next step. Okay, the dip is done. So now we are going to strain it. And rinse it with hot water. Next step. Okay, very important. We cleaned it, we rinsed it with hot water. Now we're going to use compressed air and blow out every stinking nook and cranny and hole that we can find in this bad boy. So here we go. Next step. Okay, now we're going to dip the small parts for one carburetor. You want to make sure you don't mix parts for carburetors. That's what I've been told, so I'm not going to do it. You don't want to dip any rubber or plastic parts. That included the needle valve because it had a rubber tip, so I'm not going to dip that. And the gaskets and the float was plastic. So anyway, here we go. Alright, do that for an hour. Oh, hey. Yeah, so we completed the carb rebuild clean. Took it off, took it all apart, dipped it in carb cleaner, rinsed it off, blew everything out thoroughly, made sure everything was very dry, and all the gaskets seemed to be okay, so I just reused them. And put it back on. Had to run the throttle for a good bit to get it started again, but it started right up and all's good. So good luck with your carb clean, and we'll talk to you soon.